Should I use the microphone to speak?
I think play.
Okay. Hi everybody, I will start with one of my own compositions, which is called Are You Still Somewhere? I wrote it during the pandemic, and it's actually a quote from a poem by Iggy Pop, who I collaborated with. And in that poem, he reaches out to his parents that are no longer on earth, asking, are you still somewhere? For me, that also was a question, would my audience still be there after the pandemic? And fortunately, they are. So, are you still somewhere?
So I'd like to tell you, I mean, a lot of you have questions as to how this got set up, how I became connected to Lavinia. And it's a story that really goes back 5 years. So 5 years ago, I was in the depth of depression. And on Spotify, I had a recommendation for this artist I'd never heard of. For some reason, I was listening to some music that was somehow related, and I checked it out. And at that point, this music touched me in a way that made me feel emotions. So many of you, maybe who've experienced depression or know someone who has depression, it's almost the absence of feeling. And so her music just really enabled me to rekindle emotions and connection. And it gave me a lot of peace at a time when I needed that peace. And so I listened to her music throughout that period, continued to this day. Fast forward about 3 years, or 2 years ago. And as the aftermath of that experience, everything I learned in overcoming depression, managing it, all of the therapy, everything else I went through, I decided to design my course, The Mind-Body Connection in the Neuroscience of Wellbeing, or Bio 48, for the undergraduate student population, because I know there's basically an epidemic of mood disorders on college campuses in young adults. And I felt that what I learned could be valuable to young adults. And so when I designed the course, given the connection I had to Lavinia's music, I had an exercise where, and the students in Bio 48 can say, you do learn neuroscience, you learn about brain, you learn about long-term potentiation, all that stuff that's important to how the brain can change. And I was giving a section on neuroanatomy and functional neuroanatomy, and so I showed a video of Lavinia's called Metamorphosis 2. It's a very famous work. She'll tell us about it and its origins and how she came to it. But it's a beautifully filmed video that shows her handwork, it shows her emotions. And I have the students jot down all of the behaviors, all of the processes that are going on in her brain, and then we connect that to the neuroanatomy. And you can imagine, by the time you're done with that exercise, you pretty much talked about every part of the brain. So that's a fun exercise. So the students have resonated with that. I was thinking of discussions for this year. I wanted to change it up a bit and have some guests. And so I was kind of doing a meditative walk in Aldridge Park by the big banyan tree there. And it just popped into my head. Wouldn't it be great if I got Lavinia to do the discussion over Zoom, right? Because she's in Amsterdam. And I sat down at that tree at that moment. I sent a message via Instagram to this person I've never met, thinking, the chances she'll return this are like next to nil, but this was the right thing to do. And less than, or about the time of 9 hours time difference, I got a response from her, which just floored me. One, she said she was interested. She was interested in the connections of music to well-being. And hey, I'm going to be in LA at the end of January. Wouldn't it be even better if I could come on campus, right? And wouldn't it be even better if you could run a harp? And so initially, I was told all of the reasons why this couldn't work. Logistically, it was too complicated. All of the reasons it couldn't work, but it worked, right? And so here she is today. Just an hour ago, she was giving a really great presentation talking about her process, her meditations, and so forth in Bio 48 to the students. Many of you are here. And that's where this progress has gone. So just to connect to that period of my time, this piece Metamorphosis that I played, of course you can realize the significance of this, right? Metamorphosis, you're at this point of transition. And it became a metaphor for what I was going through. I really felt that I didn't know where it would end up, but somehow it'd be changed differently. And it ended, I think, beautifully, and it ended in this event. And I'm just thrilled that you said yes and that we've been able to make this work. And I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, John. Well, yes, here I am, very grateful for everything made possible to make this happen. I certainly have an interest to connect the arts and science more, to see what we can learn from each other, how we can help each other. And personally, because I think music is such a delicate thing that if you don't give it water, it will die out. And in order to emphasize the importance of music in our daily life, we have it constantly around us, but you can also really implement it in a way I think is therapeutical, and especially for children, at least looking at my past, it really gave me something to hold on to also in difficult times. It was always a comfort, a safe haven, and it also shaped my personality. It was my way of communicating with the world when I was too shy to do that in words. So that's certainly something I found has really guided me through life, and I see music as the core and connected to everything around it, other arts, but also science, society, and pretty much the world. To actually start off immediately is to let you know that I am very much interested in your input. If you have any thoughts coming up, how science can be of extra help to the research fields in music in the way I perform it as a performer, but also as a listener. And I think the pandemic for me emphasized this because everything went online, and it was great that we could still experience music. But I remember that I had a performance during the pandemic for a big prize someone won, and they wanted me to perform, and it was a live stream. So I thought I'll be by myself just playing in front of a camera. But there were like 20 people in the hall. And it was a long time since they and I experienced this feeling of live performance. And it felt so special, and it really brought back the value of live performance and what it can bring. And actually, I would like to invite you to sit like here, right here, to feel the vibrations of the instrument while I'm playing it, because that's also what it really does to me. It brings vibrations in my whole body and makes creativity come alive. So I am classically trained as a harpist. I discovered the harp when I was 8. I had to brag a whole year at my parents to put me on harp lessons, because they were first like, oh no harp, that's huge, big, expensive instrument. But for me, the harp was my instrument from the very first time I saw it. And when I started off, I actually improvised quite a lot on the instrument, just feeling free. My Korean brother, he played the bagpipes. Two children choosing a unique instrument. But hey, we played together, and I composed a little bit for us. But then after 2 years' time, I got kind of discovered as a young talent, and I got a position in a young talent class from the conservatory in Utrecht. And that's where I switched from the small Celtic harp to the big harp. That's when I changed from folk music to classical music, and I kind of said goodbye to that music making. Very focusing on getting all the classical repertoire into perfection. I started competing from when I was 13 years old, non-stop until I was 21. And then later on in life, I discovered, hey, through arranging pieces from other composers and starting to improvise, I can also compose. So even though I never thought of myself being a composer, I didn't study for it, it was there, thinking back, it was there from the beginning. So that's also something I always want to encourage people who are searching, go back to your child's dream. And it's, for me at least, has been a very strong guidance. Even though people would say harp, you can never make a living out of it. I was like, no, this is it. And I want to research it. I want to create a stage for it. So that also led me to research in different ways. How can I make a repertoire that is showing all the possibilities of the harp as a solo instrument? Because I believe that this is the best way I can show the possibilities of the instrument. In an orchestra, it's often kind of losing the sound in the whole orchestra. And so I asked different composers to write for the instrument. And that led me to meet Phillip Glass as well in 2011. It didn't come by itself. We actually have a mutual friend, and he also became kind of my one of my best friends, but also a coach who he used to be a music critic, so he had a lot of connections in the music world, and he believed in me. And for me, that after my studies, where you are in a very secure environment, and then you're being let go into the real world, for me, his support meant a lot to bring me to the next stage of being a professional musician. So he mentioned one day, well, can you not ask Phillip Glass maybe if he wants to write something for you? And I'm like, no way, he's out there and I'm here. No way he's gonna do that. But he got to hear my name for 2 years. And then he came to Amsterdam and he performed in a hall, and he asked, can I meet that harpist I've been hearing about? So that was my opportunity to meet him. I was very honored. I asked him, what do you want me to play? And he said, well, you can look at my Metamorphosis. Maybe it works on the harp. So I did, and I kind of had an audition day on the day of the concert because he came in. He said, well, play what you made. I played it. And when he heard it, he said to me afterwards, I've heard this piece in many different ways, different instruments, but hearing you played on the harp gives me new insight in my own music. And for me, that was a changing moment from being very nervous to play for this huge composer to like, wow, it's like a mutual interaction. We can both learn from each other, and he really emphasized that